Right guys, this video I'm going to do slightly differently to normal. I'm going to be talking about things that I've done, right? Sort of not like me, you know, look at me, how good I am. It's going to go through sort of areas of my life where I've like not done so well, things that I've learned, that I've picked up through sort of counselling, through working with people, through my own life, and then try and put it all together as a video or a series of videos, because I don't want it to be one of these things that goes on forever. So, and it probably will be quite long. So I'm going to try and stop it maybe every like 6-7 minutes or whatever, and then continue it as a part 2, part 3, and then put one up like each day or something. But I'm going to try and sit here and do the whole thing at once. I thought I would do this because I used to, now my job now is obviously, you know, I meet new people regularly. You know, people that I've never met before, they come to my office and we work on their problems. And I'm a person who used to suffer with social anxiety so badly that I used to shave my head so that I avoided going to the hairdressers. So I wanted to sort of go through that in detail, really, giving you examples of my past, sort of telling you things that maybe I'm not very proud of, that I don't mind sharing online. Because I think that, you know, sometimes it's helpful to hear that you're not alone, and usually you're not. So, yeah, I guess it's good to start with some background on it. So, I think the reason I had social anxiety in my 20s was because I didn't really have a lot of respect for myself, and I don't really think that was unjustified either. I don't really think I deserved to have a lot of respect for myself. I wasn't particularly living in a way that you could consider respectful. You know, I wasn't very honest a lot of the time. My nickname at work was Sick Note because I used to take a lot of time off sick. I would sort of phone in and say I had this or that. But a lot of it was because I just hated my job and I just wanted to sit at home smoking weed, playing my Xbox, and just running away from life. I used to tell my mates that I didn't have any money, so I didn't go out because I couldn't face going out. I didn't enjoy going to the pub or anything like that because I felt so bad about myself. And again, I'm not saying like poor me. A lot of this was justified because, as I say, I wasn't living in a way that I really would consider respectful. If somebody else was living like that, I don't think I'd have a lot of time for them. However, at that point, you don't really look at it like that. I didn't really see it that way at the time. So it becomes a bit of a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't like that term, but I can't really think of a better way to explain it, really. You know, so sort of through school, I struggled. You know, I was bullied a lot at school. I was a bit of a target. You know, I was the kid with a dodgy haircut, last year's clothes. You know, I wasn't very well assertive or very well socialised. My parents were very strict. We lived in the middle of nowhere, so I didn't go out very much. My social circle when I was a kid was just like zero, literally zero. I maybe had one friend, and then I would be that friend that was so intense that they just thought, "Well, man," you know, because it was like, mate, that's you know what I mean. I can't see you every day. But obviously I wasn't allowed out, so I couldn't see them hardly at all, and that made me want to sort of see people more. And that was a big cause of the social anxiety. But it kind of, the whole thing, I believe, is a bit of a loop, right? You get stuck in, because you could say that, well, I was socially awkward just by virtue of not having any experience of socialising that much. It's all well and good at school when you know, but most of the time you're in class, and then at lunchtime I was a bit of a loner because I didn't really get to know anybody. So that goes back even further than that, because at primary school I went in believing that no one would like me in the first place. I didn't really make a lot of effort with making friends at primary school. So I struggled like mad, really, with the whole thing. And that was not probably up until the age of about, I don't know, maybe year 10, I guess, when I took my options. I made some friends because obviously we changed classes, and I made some friends that I'm still friends with now. So that kind of changed at that point. But nonetheless, I think by that point the sort of decisions had been made, and that was the way that I kind of saw the world. You know, my home life was not great. And as I said before, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But due to the fact of being grounded all the time, I developed a major love for music. I've always been like massively into music. It was almost like my friend when I was a kid. And I used to, because I was sort of never allowed out on the, you know, the big nights out and things like that, I used to stay at home and go through the radio to find pirate radio stations. And then I used to make pause mixtapes of cassettes, you know, like of music. And then whereas all the other kids at school were out and about socialising, I wasn't. So I was getting all this music that nobody knew anything about, and that got me a little bit of attention for a little while. But my mum cottoned on to the fact that I was doing that, so she used to cut the plug off my stereo, so I couldn't do that. So I used to often sit in my room, not really doing a great deal. My mum never knew this, but I was quite resourceful, so I had a paper round at the age of 13. I used to buy plugs. So that if she cut the plug off the stereo, I would just replace the plug, which was a bit dodgy because I'm colourblind, and she would never let me like change a plug or anything like that. So I could have fucking blown the house up, but I really didn't care because I wanted to listen to music. And I remember putting the plug back on, and then I used to sit there with one headphone in and the other ear out, just so I could hear if she was coming up the stairs, and I would quickly like stop. And that was, you know, I think that didn't help. That didn't help my kind of development either. So there was a few things like that I won't go into much more detail about, but there was a few more sort of things like that's just sort of one example. And I don't get me wrong, because I don't look at that as a poor me, I was a victim thing. Do you know what I mean? It was like, well, you know, I dealt with that. As I say, because I had this love for music, so I used to sit in my room and I used to practice, because I used to well, still do love hip hop. So I used to sit there, I used to practice rapping in my room, and I used to practice, like I used to look and how can I make rhymes up from everything that's in my room, and I used to sit there doing that. So when I had no like music to listen to, I used to sort of almost like make my own in my head and do that. So it kind of, you know, that was quite I was quite resourceful like that, I think, you know, and that kind of helped me through that period. So I'm going to stop this now, and then I'm going to continue in another video in a sec. All right, so I'm just going to stop this one.